Today, life is good. It's a lot better than what it used to be. I mean, just from last year, it's gotten 10 times better. You know, got that nice, healthy, beautiful family at home, and I'm sober. You know, like I live in Ventura, which is beautiful, and you know, we're out here trying to help people for a living. My name is Shaun and this is my recovery story. It's not always like easy, but like life is so much better. You know, I'm so glad that like I've been able to get through what I thought was impossible to get through, and like getting sober again, and you know, continue like keeping the family together. You know, we had another baby last year, a little girl, my wife and I did, and it's like every day is just I'm filled with gratitude. And so, you know, it's I don't know, I love life right now. You know, it's not like that every day, but like for the most part, like I think I'm happy. Back in 2009, I actually got sober for all the wrong reasons. It was I was getting sober to avoid a parole violation. So I had the option of go to treatment or go to prison, and it took me like a day or so to like really think about that, you know, because going to prison's easy. Getting sober, going to treatment, like that's a whole nother. I had never done that before, and it was scary. Like that was scarier than going to prison, you know. Going to prison, like I'm with all my people, like I know exactly what to expect. It's 3 hots and a cot. I didn't really have a whole lot of responsibility at home, you know, loaded or not. You know, I had my daughter, but she, you know, I was absent from her life, you know, and that you know, the guilt behind that just never really went away. So I think that actually added on to the decision to go to treatment. And so in September 1st, 2009, I went to Khepera House. I didn't expect to stay there for long. I thought I was just going to get like 30 days, 60 days or something like that, and go back to whatever I was doing. I just wanted parole off my back. And, you know, I remember my mom, like when she heard what was going on, because I was living at my mom's, of course, you know, and she was like ready. She was ready to take me right then and there. And I'd already missed like a couple Christmases from being busted, and I was finally like, all right, fuck it, let's go. You know, she took me, and it felt so good to like not have all that weight on my shoulders of like, it's a lot of work getting loaded, honestly. You know, it's like, it's a hustle, and it sucks. You know, it's never like panned out for me. It's never been good. You know, it's always the same shit. It's just like long form insanity where, you know, get out, just drink, you know, maybe on the weekends, and then pick up, and then you're loaded again, you know, back on the run. And that was like my life since I was like 14, in and out and getting loaded. It was all just me getting loaded. And the byproduct of that was just a terrible life. You know, I've never picked up and had a better time. You know, it's just always been some bullshit. So, when I went to Khepera, there was a bunch of other people there that I knew. They were friends of mine, and I just felt like I was at home, dude. I just felt good, you know. And I remember getting the 30 days, and then the 60 days, and then the 90 days, and just like each little chip that I was getting sober, I felt like it was an accomplishment. It's like the first thing I've accomplished in maybe ever, you know, like I did this, you know, and it just felt good, you know. Then going to meetings and learning all about that, and you know, it's It was a beautiful experience, and I'm really glad that I decided to go. In Khepera House, you wake up at like 5:30 in the morning, which I was not a big fan of, because I'm just not disciplined enough to wake up early. If I'm not up all night, I'm definitely not waking up at 5:30 in the morning. But you'd get up at 5:30 and you'd have to go to this meeting downstairs at 6, and it was like a check-in meeting. You check in physically, mentally, and spiritually, and everybody goes around the room and just kind of checks in, like, hey, physically I feel like shit, mentally clear-minded, but spiritually connected, and everybody would do that. And that's how we started our day. And then throughout the day, like, it was, you couldn't just leave, especially if you just got there. It'd be filled with, like, meetings and groups, and maybe you talk to your counselor or whatever the case is. But aside from that, like, you're just rolling cigarettes in between, drinking coffee and bullshitting, maybe playing cards with the people you meet in there, which is it was typically convicts that were in there. And that's probably why I felt so at home, because I felt like I was with my people and we were all doing this together. So yeah, that was pretty much it. There wasn't any work until later. Like, as you phase up, if you do good there and you stick around long enough, like, they phase you up. You go on to blue phase, and then you can go look for a job, and then you start working, and maybe go see your family here and there. And but dude, that program was so well structured for somebody like me who needed it, that it worked. So, and I stayed there for like 9 months. I became, I went through the treatment part of it, which was 3 months. And then, I became like a senior resident coordinator. And I thought that title was like the biggest thing that I've ever had in my life, and it probably was, honestly, because I've never had a title before other than a fucking booking number or, my parole number or whatever the case is. I've never been anything, so senior resident coordinator was pretty cool. I was like the boss of the senior residents, so, which we were in charge of like chores and shit like that. So, but, it was, felt good, and I left there on good terms, and I lived a successful life after that place. And if it wasn't for that place, and in hindsight, if it wasn't for parole, like, I wouldn't have shit today. Going to Alcoholics Anonymous, they kind of pointed out the fact that, every time you get into this cycle, like, you start with a drink. And like, why are you drinking? Because I don't know how to live life otherwise. I don't know how to live and enjoy life without something in my hand, something to help me get through this shit. Like, whether it's a celebration or, birthday, funeral, end of the workday, like, whatever the case is. Like, there was always, I couldn't go out without having something. I don't want to go to a party unless I'm getting fucked up, or whatever the case is. Like, I didn't know how to be a human being without being drunk or loaded, and they pointed out that this is just a symptom. The alcohol and drugs are just a symptom of alcoholism. And so, when I put it down, like, I still got a problem. I still got this whole life issue, which I don't know how to live. And AA and treatment, and as they pushed me closer to God, the more I started to understand and, like, let go, and there was some solution there. And I was like 26 when I got sober. So, really trying to, like, understand that and like trust in the 12 steps and stuff like that. Like, that's, I needed to have a sponsor or somebody to walk me through this shit and, like, explain, like, read the book and every word in it. Like, yeah, I have questions. I don't, I'm not fully committed to this. I don't really believe in any of this, dude, like, AA was the last house on the block for me. Like, I couldn't even believe I was in an AA meeting when I went, as I I was like, what is this? I don't want to be here, but it's the one thing that saved me, you know? So it just kind of goes to show, like, I don't know what I need. But when I listen to other guys like me, alcoholics that have found recovery, or addicts that have found recovery, I just do what they tell me to do. Like, how'd you do it? Oh, I got a sponsor and work steps, and I go to meetings and this and that. It's like, oh, well, I don't really want to do that. Anything else? No, you got to do that, you know? And that's kind of like the issue with a lot of folks. Like, they don't really want to drink the juice, because drinking alcohol and doing drugs has always been such a good solution for them, even though their life ends up like shit, you know? There's definitely shame for, you know, how I treated people, you know, the things I've done, you know, like, especially to my family. Like, my poor grandma, dude, like, she all she tried to do was, like, love me and take care of me. And I just took her for granted, you know, stole from her, you know, damaged her property, like, punched holes in the walls, like, just really immature, stupid stuff, you know? And like, even to this day, like, there's some regret there, you know, like, God, why did I do that? Like, there's some shameful shit, you know, like, shame in the relationships I've been in. And at least back then, you know, it was hard to look at yourself in the mirror, especially, like, coming out of it, you know, trying to get clean and sober, just, like, disgusted by myself, you know, like, how could you do that? You know, just there was a lot of shame and embarrassment, humiliation. And at the end of the day, it's like, bro, I only have myself to blame, you know? So, like, walking through that and being able to, like, let go of some of that, that was definitely an emotional, mental, and spiritual process that could only be achieved, like, through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous that I was in, you know? So I'm plugging AA in a lot here, and, you know, I don't think we're supposed to, but I love AA, and I don't, you know, it's just, I owe so much of my life to it. I owe my life to it, because it's helped with everything. Like, I wouldn't be here today without it. That's a fact. So, and, like, letting go of shame and stuff like that, like, we process that stuff, you know, through that. I didn't know what to expect when I got sober. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I didn't really, like, I was new to it, all of it, you know. And there came a point when I just kind of had to surrender and just go with the flow, you know. So the recovery process, like, at first it feels really good, and then it gets really hard, and then it gets really painful, like, as you walk through, because you gotta go through all this shit, you know, in order to move on with your life and, like, live and help someone else. You know, the whole point is to get closer to God and help another alcoholic. I don't know what to expect still, you know. I think that's just life, you know. It's as life comes, you know, my recovery stays strong and allows me to deal with it without hurting anybody or drinking over it, you know. So staying sober, you know, getting involved with recovery and sobriety, and, like, getting involved with AA or NA, like, whatever the case is, you know, to stay committed, you know, is, because life gets so good. Life gets so good that you start forgetting about, like, how you got here, you know. And that was the case for me. I stopped, like, going to meetings. I stopped talking to my sponsor. I stopped working steps. And, like, the more I did that, the more into my own, like, the further from God I would get. And so I would get more into myself and, like, self-will and fear and ego. And, like, I did all this. And you know, my lack of humility was just, like, disgusting, you know. Like, all the little successes in life, you know, like the girl, the, you know, the car, the house, you know, the whatever, you know, those like meant more to me than my connection with my recovery, you know? And so, you know, recovery took a back seat, and I was just kind of like freeballing life, dude, without any like support. You know, I had no, like, I started slipping back into old ways until like I finally, you know, fucked it up in 2020. I went back out, you know, and when that happened, I had already had like the white picket fence, American dream life, you know, really cool job, you know, out in the oil fields. I was there for 11 years. I had 11 years clean and sober, and you know, I had the truck, the boat, the wife, the kids. And I was like, you know, try a little acid, you know, it's like, that's not really a drug. You know, it's like an amino acid, you know? And I really like believed that part, you know, that I was telling myself, which was straight bullshit, you know? And really what it was I had a lack of recovery. I wasn't involved in recovery anymore. So those little whispers and those little manipulations, like I was completely defenseless against, you know, like, I really believed that acid was not a drug. And next thing you know, like I'm doing acid every weekend, you know, and then it slowly goes into something else, and shooting Molly, and everything just turned into a fucking mess. It got real ugly. In 2020, I relapsed, and it was about a year before I think I got actually honest about it. My wife knew about it. And just for the sake of the business my brother and I were starting, the Sober Living had just opened, you know. I was like, oh, I can't tell anybody about this now. You know, I'm going to try and control this as much as I can. And so, having to keep it like a secret, and just opening a Sober Living was a nightmare, honestly, you know. But I needed it to be a nightmare. You know, I needed it to get bad, because I don't get better if life is good. It's already good. It needs to get kind of fucked up, you know. There was times when, you know, I'd be up all night shooting cocaine, and I'd have to go over to the Sober Living. And, you know, I would be sure to wear long sleeve shirts, and whether I was up all night or not, like nobody really suspected that I was getting loaded, you know, because I really wasn't acting like I was loaded. You know, I never shot cocaine before until this time, because shooting speed was way too much that one time, you know. And so shooting cocaine, like, you know, I'd be all right. I could kind of manage the next day, you know, even if I was up all night, it wasn't as bad. But I'd be going over to the Sober Living, our Sober Living, and telling people that they need to get a sponsor and work steps. Meanwhile, my arms are just filled with holes from shooting cocaine all night. And it was ugly, you know. And I'd go home and fuck around and do something else, you know. And it was just like episode after episode. And then my wife having to deal with me at home. You know, God bless her, you know, the damage I've done in our relationship. And she'd never see me loaded. And so, you know, I'll forever be grateful for her standing by me, because I was sick, you know. I was succumbed to my disease that had like fully taken over, you know. And, you know, even with our new baby that we had in 2020, Roman, you know, we had him in May 27th, 2020, and I was probably loaded like 3 months after that, you know. So, my wife held it down, and she definitely pushed me in the right direction and supported me. She wasn't happy about it, but she loves me, and she, we built a family together. We got married in 2019. We'd already been together for a couple of years before that. And then we had the baby the following year, and it's like, dude, I couldn't believe that I'd relapsed. I couldn't even fucking believe it. I really couldn't, because I wasn't admitting it. Because I really was making excuses for all these things that I was doing, like even slamming Molly. Like, yeah, it's just Molly. It's a fucking drug, dude. And you're shooting it into your veins. Like, people don't do that, taking acid before going to bed, like, no, bro, it doesn't work like that. Just ugly thing after ugly thing, and just the behavior that comes along with it. And then when I started drinking, like, it got even worse. And I had done all these drugs just to avoid drinking, because in my head, like, if I drink, it's over. Then I really relapsed. Meanwhile, I had to go try a little shot of speed. And speaking of shooting speed, the one night I shot speed, I ended up blacking out on Xanax, and I took like 8 hits of LSD, and then I came to the next day to my kids. They're like, I've got the Oculus on, and I'm like in a whole nother world, like, for all night. And then out of nowhere, I hear my kids say, "Dad?" And my kids have never seen me loaded or anything. And I'm like, holy shit. And I take it off, and I'm like, I can't even believe what's going on right now. Like, what am I doing? And I'm like trying to tell them to get out of here, and then my wife comes out. She's like, oh my God, this is done. We're done with this. She calls my brother, or I called my brother, and I was like, dude, I couldn't even talk, but like, whatever words I could get out, he didn't go to work that day, and he came over and he showed up, and I was like, fuck, dude, I need help. That was the first time I admitted that I needed help. And so we were like, you know what? I think you should just go raise your hand at him. Or he was like, I think you just go raise your hand at a meeting and take a newcomer chip. And it was so fucking hard to do that, but he was right. It's like all I could do, because what else am I going to do? Just keep doing this, And I swear to God, it was like jaws hit the floor, when I raised my hand and took a newcomer chip. Because I was so like involved with all these people that were in sober living. Like we were doing good. And, and the truth came out, and I felt good. It felt better, but like I wasn't done. And I raised my hand and I took that newcomer chip, and then I took another one the following week, and I just couldn't get it together. And I'm like, you know what? I got to ride this one out, and hopefully I make it back. And just continued on with getting loaded for a while. And eventually, so in 2021, June 3rd, 2021, I ended up going to Channel Islands rehab. And shout out to Dan and Beth over there, and LG, and like Alejandra and the whole crew over there. Like, I called up Beth. I know you guys don't know who Beth is, but people who watching this might know who Beth is. And I called up Beth. I'm like, hey, I need a bed. She's like, for who? I'm like, for me. She couldn't believe it. I'm like, no, I seriously need a bed, dude. She's like, all right, we'll come in. And I went in, and like, it was another one of those feelings, like the weight's off my shoulders, and I went in there, and there was a guy that had gotten there the day before me, and he was an alcoholic. He was shaking really bad. And we met, and, his name was Shaun too. And we became close friends. Like, we were buddies, dude. He was older. He was like 53, but didn't matter. I'm like late 30s, whatever. And we had this one thing in common, that we were both alcoholics. He came from a completely different background than me, but we connected. Like, we bonded through our parole. Like, I knew what he was going through. He knew what I was going through. Like we were both going through, alcoholism, trying to get sober and dealing with the obsession and the allergy of the body. Like once I pick up, I can't put it down. And when I don't have it, all I do is think about it. That's like a fucking problem, Monarch was like getting off the floor. We had the sober living, but my brother and I were trying to put this IOP together, and like we had no fucking idea what we were doing at all, like none. And I left my company in the oil fields on a leave, like a medical leave for stress, and in the meantime, like I knew I only had about a year of disability before I had to figure this shit out, and so we got to work on the IOP, and I like emptied my 401k, like I got loans, credit cards, like maxed out, like I put everything into this thing because I believed in it so much. And then here I am sitting in detox, like how am I gonna, like, how is anything gonna work now? Thank God I went to detox because one, I got clean for a little bit, but two, I met Shaun. And Shaun, he was a business guy. Like, so I guess he had some money or something, I didn't really know that though. He took interest into what we were doing. We stayed friends after treatment and continued going to meetings. And he's like, hey, I want to be a part of what you guys are doing. And like, I never solicited anything to him. I never offered him a position. I never to me, like he was on another level than I was. Like I'm just over here trying to get this shit together on my own. He offered to be a part of, and he's like, well, what would it cost to be a partner? And I told him whatever that amount might be. And really I didn't know, because I'd never done anything like this before, and neither has my brother. So, he bought in, he funded payroll, got us up on our feet. We were rolling, doing good. And we were in business. Like, dude, I remember having phone calls with him and just, hey man, we got another client, and things are going good. We're just in this little like $1,200 or $1,500 a month, like 3-bedroom, I don't know, small office space. It was like a closet almost. And, but it was working, and checks started coming in, and we were getting support from the community and other, just getting it going. And, we didn't really know what we were doing, but it was working, and I felt like God was really involved. And then he ended up passing away, like 7 months later, May the next year. I think we opened in October, and then he died 2022, May 17th, 2022, because he kept going out. He was a true alcoholic. He could not stay sober. And, it was a heartbreaker, because you can't make anybody get sober and stay sober. But I knew what he was going through. It's just so fucking hard to do this, that's why most people don't do it. But, Monarch is directly tied into my newfound recovery, just because it's been there since I got sober again. So, in hindsight, like if I didn't go to treatment, if I didn't go to rehab, and I wouldn't have met Shaun, and we wouldn't even be talking today. I'd be in the hole somewhere financially, trying to work in the oil field still. But God has this weird way of working, to make the best out of nothing, My life today is, I feel like a sense of freedom. The first 3 years were rough. I remember getting sober again and going to the 6:45 a.m. meeting. 6:45 a.m. meeting, and I would do that every day, and I loved it. Like I was never an early morning meeting guy, but like I had nothing else to do, because I don't have that at this time now. I don't have my job in the oil fields, and I'm solely relying on outpatient sober living and just trying to make this thing work, but, getting sober for the first time again, I felt like I was brand new, and I was, so trying to be sober, early recovery, and also like dealing with a brand new business, like not the best combo. It really isn't. Like they say you shouldn't do anything like that in your early recovery, but, and then my family at home, like, dude, my wife was like, my wife had to deal with, just because I got sober doesn't mean everything was better. I had to go through the process of trying to repair that. And just staying sober wasn't enough. I really had to like figure this out, but I didn't really have the answers. All I knew was that I needed to just stay sober, dude, so I don't cause any more damage. But as a result of getting sober, staying sober, like life did start getting better again. I think my wife started to forgive me a little bit and started to really understand like how crazy alcoholism and addiction are. They're rough. It's like the only disease people get mad at you for having, and it's not really, it's like, man, why can't you just stop, dude? Like, just don't, it's like, it's not that easy. Someone described it as like imagine walking through a desert for 3 days with no water. And then you see a guy in the middle of this desert and he's got a glass of water. He says, you could have this glass of water, but you can never see your family again. You're going to take the water. That's addiction. Because every time you pick up, you're probably not going to see your family. You're going to fuck something up. And it's like, that's exactly how it feels. Like, I need it. It's like a hungry dog. Like, they're going to eat. My life today, though, as a result of going to that meeting, everything else just became a little easier to deal with. Like the business, the family, the this, that, like life just got easier. And so, and I hit those milestones again, the 30, 60, 90, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 3 years. I'm coming up on 4 years. And those first 3 years, dude, were rough. Like, I tried, like, the business was like seriously killing me, and on top of the damage that I'd done to my family, I feel like I definitely had to deal with that. There was a certain level of, like, well, that's what you get. That you deserve to feel like shit for what you did. I should feel like shit for what I did, because what I did wasn't right. Like, I totally damaged my family, dude. It wasn't cool. I'm the dad, husband, so I had to repair that, but, through this whole sobriety process, like, I've been able to fix some of that, it's definitely changed things. It's made it more real, honestly, like, and then the business, like, completely failing for 3 long fucking years. It was just really rough. Like, I tried to sell the business. I tried to give it away. I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want to deal with it. And every day I'd have to wake up and check the account and it'd be negative. I got payroll coming up. And then, I think we had, like, most clients we've ever had is like 10 to 15 clients, like, for 3 years. Like, 15 clients here was like a lot, like, yeah, hell yeah, dude, we're going to break even this month. It's just, I never knew what I was doing, but something was keeping us going somehow, and I knew as long as I stayed sober, like, it's going to get better, and it was true. I may not feel good, and I didn't. I felt like absolute shit every single day, super depressed, super anxious, just like spinning my wheels. I didn't know what to do. All I could do is just like get up and face it again, and go to a meeting and get a sponsor and start working steps, because that's always been the solution, not just to drinking, but and drugging, but life. Like, remember, like, dude, all that other shit doesn't matter. All you got to do is stay sober and work a program. And I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And it got better, dude. I got through it, you know. But I need meetings, and I think this time around, like, I won't take it for granted like I did before. I took it for granted, you know. I was like, oh, I'm good. Yeah, I got this, you know. And I forgot how bad it gets, dude. And I don't know how bad it gets until I pick up. And I'm usually the last one to know how bad it is, you know, until I got to face it. But, yeah, life today it's much better. Just to answer the question, it's, I do feel free. I get to spend time with my family, make plans, like go on vacation, hopefully soon. I overdue for a vacation, but, just to be present. And, you know, my wife and I had a little girl in June last year, and, dude, it's just like, I feel like we're having the time of our life right now, you know. It may not always be easy, dude, but like at the end of the day, like just to have gratitude, just for the little things like the sun being out, like that's something to hold on to. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm not always grateful for things like that, but just little things like that can change my entire day. You're like, oh, hell yeah, it's a sunny day. You know, like coffee, like all these little things that I got, it just like, this makes my life a little bit, you know, better, you know? I don't need like gold rings and fucking, you know, Maseratis and shit like that. I just need my family, dude. My family, my recovery, you know, good friends around me, like this life, you know, so short and so, so temporary, you know. It's, there's just so much to live for now. You know, it wasn't like that before. I didn't want to live, even sober, dude. Like 2 years ago, in 2024, like that was like the tail end of our shitty ass company, and just how terrible things were. 2025, like everything changed, like financially at least, you know. I don't know. You gotta be careful what you pray for sometimes, because you get it. It's like you better be ready for it, you know, because it's a lot. God has definitely been a big benefactor in my life and my family's life and stuff like that, you know. And like to even talk like that today is like it's good, you know. I was never really a big God believer before I got sober, you know. So yeah, life is good.